Fight.
Welcome back to the Two Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett, coming at you live solo today. The day after Christmas, I want to talk about what I saw from the NBA Christmas Day recap. A couple things I want to hit. Housekeeping. I'm looking forward to a really big year in 2024. I appreciate all the support for everyone who's done anything for this show. 5-star reviews, ratings, comments, subscribes, YouTube, likes, comments, the whole thing. I greatly appreciate everything you guys have supported on me, or with me, for me, with this show. It greatly is appreciated. It's the best gift I could ever get for Christmas, putting out content for you guys. Don't forget, I want to give back to you. Use code 2Pointers. SeatGeek is the presenting sponsor of the Two Pointers Podcast. With over 20 million downloads of the SeatGeek app on the App Store, it's one of the largest ticket platforms in the United States. Feel free to use that code 2Pointers to get $20 off your first purchase. A lot of NBA games, bowl games, concerts, sporting events, anything you need. $20 off that first purchase. Don't forget, we got that for you. So, again, I want to talk about the 2023 NBA Christmas Day game recap. I did spend a really long and fun and tiresome day with my family and my wife's family on Christmas Day. So I actually shout out to my brand new Apple TV I got from my brother. I'm very thankful for that. Was able to go in and use that very, very quickly and easily on the NBA app, YouTube TV, the whole thing, to catch up on a lot of the games that I might have missed. Condensed versions, cut out a lot of the time and commercials. 2-3 hour production when it's live, cuts it down to hour and 50, I think, for the condensed game with every possession. And then you can do even more kinds of cool stuff here and there. So I had a really good time with it. I enjoyed it. So let's talk about the 2023 NBA Christmas Day games. And just some things in general that I saw. Some of them are going to be overarching takeaways, and I'll go in order from the 12 o'clock tip all the way to the late night game with the Mavs and the Suns. But we're going to start at the top with Bucks-Knicks. Bucks-Knicks was the opening game. Madison Square Garden. Knicks have played the most Christmas Day games. Not surprising. I will say we got a great game to start, and we honestly didn't have a bad game tonight or throughout the entire night. NBA Christmas Day games always find a way to, maybe it's just the mantra of what's going on, maybe the day. The players know how big of a deal it is. It seems like the effort and intensity is turned up. The fans are definitely there. I mean, I think most of these places were probably 90+% capacity. I just love the way the Christmas Day game feels. It's very similar to how, as much as I've always said, with Thanksgiving being football, it's always going to be a football sport, even if college basketball was on, etc. Thanksgiving is an incredible holiday for football, and Christmas is no different for the NBA, despite what the NFL tried to do with Chiefs Raiders and some other games in there. Wasn't exactly a huge fan of some of that, but the 49ers Ravens didn't disappoint, even though I did watch it. So anyway, Bucks Knicks. A couple of just overarching takeaways, a little bit of a recap there. The Knicks did pull out the victory against the Bucks. I want to make sure I get a score right for you, so I'm not speaking from the tongue here. 129-122 Knicks victory. Giannis led with 32 points, 13 rebounds, and 6 assists for the Bucks. And then Jalen Brunson, the guy that's going to be the brunt of this conversation here around the Knicks, he had 38, 4, and 6, 38 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. Brunson's incredible. I have watched my fair share of Knicks games over his tenure there, but this was the full Jalen Brunson experience on full display, both offensively, being so strong and dominant. We'll talk about that. Even going back to some of the stuff on the defensive end, he isn't exactly what I would call the worst defender in the world, right? For when small guards of his caliber, Damian Lillard, Trae Young, as some examples there. He's able to generate deflections, steals, etc. Don't get me wrong, he had one steal in the game, but he's not exactly the most stout defender. But when you're talking about Jalen Brunson and what he provides for the Knicks, your first thing you're bringing up is not defense. He creates incredible mismatches for them with his quickness and his passing. He attacked Brook Lopez early on a couple of shots that I had written down here with absolutely no fear. And Lopez obviously is one of the better defenders of the last 5 to 10 years, specifically as a big. He's been a defensive player of the year voting conversation many times. Turnaround jumpers. He had 20 points in the first half, getting into space in the mid-range. It creates a whole lot of flexibility for their offense that otherwise wouldn't be there if they didn't have somebody as, nothing against Emmanuel Quickly, who could be starting in that spot, or Quentin Grimes, but those guys are very, very quick in their own right. But Brunson his combination of footwork and that quickness and the ability to make the mid-range jumper so consistently gives them a whole dynamic part of their offense. On the flip side of it, since they were the winner, I'll kind of talk about the Knicks first. Randall's ISOs are horrible. I mean, those have got to stop. Like, I don't know if it's a Coach Tibbs thing. I don't know if it's a Randall thinks he can get away with it thing. I don't know if it's they get too many situations where, and that's part of the reason the Bucks crawled back in this game. He had a couple situations where he would have the ball, if you're going west to east here on the east side of the basket or on the court, and he would get like at the 3-point line of the left wing and either drive it and try to kick it, or in those, sure, they might work out, but how serious are you taking a Julius Randle, dribble drive? Like, it's not. And then he would maybe try to post up. And again, anytime he's looking for that pass, it's going to move the ball better, and it's going to get into somebody's hands that needs to have it. Inside 17 feet, I want Julius Randle taking that shot, pretty consistently. Problem is taking an ISO from the 3-point line. Look, it has its plays where you're going to have good results. He almost destroyed Giannis on a poster on one of those dunks on a dribble behind the back, like dribble attack move. Like, it was incredible. But then, 2 plays later, I think it was, like, he had an absolutely awful ISO where he turned it over trying to go through his legs. It's not the kind of ball they need to run. If he ISOs more than 5 times in a game, it really, really slows down. And I'm just throwing out a number. It could be any number. Because I don't think he's bad in isolation. It's just the amount of times it happens where he puts himself on an island thinking he's going to be able to take the guy in front of him when he's not the quickest, offensive player, doesn't have the best footwork, and I'm not exactly scared of his post move package either. So look, I like Randall. I think he's an incredible offensive player, but in the isolation, it looks so bad whenever they're on offense, and he again will stop the ball there. And I think, honestly, if you can prevent him from being involved in that because of getting out in transition more, because of a guy like Brunson, Quickly, Grimes, etc. Talk about some of those ball handlers, Hart as well. DiVincenzo was hitting a ton of really incredible threes. Look, anything you can do to keep this offense moving, whether that's in the half court with the ball movement or in the full court without Randall having the ball, unless it's in space and he's obviously going to get a pass from one of those guys, those ISOs just have to not happen. On the Bucks side of things, just quickly, look, the defense is a problem. I say the defense is a problem, and it still didn't look that bad. I know they gave up 129. The 6th best offensive rating team in the East is the Knicks, and they have 117.4 rating. They're 10th in the NBA. The 6th best East offense. So talking about how good the West is this year, the East has 5 teams that are better on offense. I don't have those in front of me, unfortunately. I know Boston, Philly, basically, and all the top teams. The Hawks were there as well. But 6 of the top 10 offensive teams in the NBA, and 6 of them being in the East, and that's who's shredding up the Bucks, right? Like, this is not the top premier teams in the West here. This is not the Celtics, right? Another team in the top of the East in terms of offensive value. And I'm not saying the Knicks are, this is not a knock on the Knicks. It's if the Bucks aren't going to be able to provide defensive production against a team that isn't those top teams that they're going to play, like the Celtics in the second or third round of the playoffs more than likely, or the Sixers if they continue on what their run is. Obviously we know what the offense can be. Giannis Lillard pick and roll is really dynamic. It creates a lot of mismatch opportunities where Giannis doesn't have to always roll to the basket and dunk, but we know he has the length and the flexibility to do that. Sometimes it can be a post up. Sometimes it can be a kick out off of that pass. Obviously, we know what Lillard can be if they go under the screen. There's a free 30-foot or 25-foot somewhere in between there, 3-point opportunity that we know he can knock down, even if he didn't consistently in this game. Giannis being able to get on these big stretches. He had 17 points with 6 minutes left in the third quarter. He finished with 30-plus. Dame finished with 30-plus, even though it didn't feel like that kind of game for him. 4 of 13 from 3, even at 30%, isn't exactly something you want out of Damian Lillard. Not that this is a playoff game, but this is a team that you could see in the playoffs, depending on if the Bucks go through a stretch like they have been a little bit here, where they're not winning games and they're not keeping themselves in that top tier part of the East. The Knicks can obviously, fit right in there with that 4-5 matchup like they did with Atlanta. That could be the same thing with the Bucks, and we see that there's a way for the Knicks to exploit them. Just overall, I'm not necessarily ready to jump ship on the Bucks, obviously, but there's some problems to be had. I'm not saying the Knicks are going to be better than them in the playoffs or anything like that, but this game gave us a true sign of if these two teams play in the playoff, whether I think there's a coaching mismatch on either side of the other, I think it's actually pretty even in that regard, just because of some of the stuff Tibbs doesn't do from an adjustment standpoint, and then Griffin being a rookie head coach still figuring things out. Look, at the end of the day, these two teams were really evenly matched for a good portion of this game, and the results showed the Knicks just had a better offensive day and were able to exploit some of the mismatches that they had with Brunson. All right, Warriors-Nuggets. Warriors-Nuggets was the next game. I'm surprised this was the 2:30 tip or whatever it was, 2 o'clock tip. Like, I'm really surprised by that, but I guess with the mountain time with the Nuggets, you would have them being I guess it would be 12 at their time, so yeah, I don't even know if I'm doing the math right there. So, yeah, 2 hours back. Look, I get it. At noon tip in Denver, it would be 11 o'clock a.m. tip Pacific for the Warriors fans that are, hopefully near San Francisco in that area. The East Coast gets it at 2:30. All right, maybe I understand it, right? It's not the best matchup out of the 5. We know that the Celtics-Lakers matchup at 5 that we'll get to is always the premier middle, not the Celtics-Lakers, but the 5 p.m. is always the premier matchup there. But I want to start at the top. I was wrong about Brandon Podziemski. Now, when I say wrong in the scheme of the context of the NBA draft, right? Like when a guy has someone ranked, whether that's me or anyone else in this community, when someone is, ranking someone, there's a lot of factors that go into that, right? I'm not going to sit here and make excuses, right? The irony is 2 guys that were pretty strong performers on Christmas Day today. Jaime Jaquez, obviously, we'll get to him in a minute. I'd say that was a pretty strong performance. And then Brandon Podziemski, who had 13 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. It felt like more than that. The motor there was intense. I had them back-to-back behind each other in my final top. I believe I ended up going with top 75 when I released it in June before the NBA draft. I had Brandon Podziemski 43rd, and I had Jaime Jaquez 44th. So, look, there's a couple of things there. Talking about his tweet, I wanted to mention he tweeted 2 years ago. He tweeted on December 24th, right before the Christmas Day game night. 2 years ago at this time, I had 17 DNPs and only played garbage time. That was when he was in Illinois. 1 year ago at this time, I wasn't on any draft boards. 5 months ago, all I heard was that I was a bust. Started the year out of the rotation, and now I'm starting for the best franchise in the NBA. That last part may be debatable, but look, the point is he is somebody that has earned his opportunity. He's, done everything right to get himself in a position to be on the floor for one of the best teams in the NBA when they're fully healthy and they're fully clicking. Obviously, that's not the case right now as they're, somewhere at the end of the play-in as currently stands. He was incredible. He doesn't fix a lot of their problems. At the combine, he weighed in and measured at 6'3" and 3/4, 204 pounds, only 6.5 0.5 wingspan. So, look, at the end of the day, it's not exactly somebody that they want or they need right now with what the deficit of their team is. He obviously helps keep their system running and fluid. He provides a lot of versatility. Don't get me wrong, the 9 rebounds is impressive, but you're not going to be winning games, especially with a front court like Denver's was with Jokic, Gordon, and some others there. You're not going to win games. The lack of size is concerning. All right, the Chris Paul bench minutes, another small guard there that they're playing with. His passing is obviously still what we know that Chris Paul is, but those minutes feel underwhelming. Kevon Looney's not somebody that I'm thinking is an all-world changer here for them. He's not going to obviously want to play or need to be able to play 40 minutes a night for them in the playoffs. That's probably what's going to end up happening. Andrew Wiggins obviously isn't somebody you want to be relying on as a rebounder, even though he has that ability as an athletic player. Obviously, not having Draymond Green, which I wrote down a question as I was watching. I'm like, did the Warriors miss Draymond Green in this game? Yeah, the Michael Porter Jr. defense would have been better, or a defense on Michael Porter Jr., defense on Eric Gordon. It would have obviously, he knows how to defend, teams with exceptional ball movement. That was what made him really good in those series against the Cavs whenever the Warriors were winning championships, is obviously they had a player like LeBron who he had played against plenty times, knew how to scout, knew how to play defense against. So, look, this one game, that doesn't change the grand scheme of how the Warriors look this year, but obviously he's going to be out for another couple of weeks, it sounds like, from the latest reports, but he has been doing whatever the rehab has been. Look, the lack of size is absolutely concerning, and Jonathan Kuminga is another guy that, you're these long, athletic, either versatile guards or versatile wings and forwards that, right now they just need a big, right? Like, I love Kuminga and I love what he's provided for them specifically on defense. Back whenever this show started, Josh and I did our top 5 favorite players in that draft. Still a really good episode that kind of aged well, not necessarily from a take standpoint, just from the way we evaluated those guys, even when we weren't considered or felt like draft people, I guess you could say. But, we did our top 5 favorite players or guys that we thought would be, basically NBA minutes. They would stick in NBA minutes. And Jonathan Kuminga was, I think, number 1 on my list. I mean, in that draft, I had an unbelievable feel for him, even with the raw athleticism, explosiveness. But just the kind of improvement and patience he's shown to be, in a system like same thing with Brandon Bajemski, right? Even though in a lot more time in Kuminga's case, I really like what I've seen specifically on defense. I, felt like at one point, obviously, you can take what you want from the NBA Twitter or NBA X with a grain of salt, but I feel like I was on my own island here with having to defend Jonathan Kuminga or just being the only guy left that felt like, hey, we've got to give this guy a chance, right? As he gets more opportunity. Don't get me wrong. Is a Draymond suspension good for him and a Wiggins getting benched good for him? Yeah, of course it is. It's giving him the opportunity. He has the offensive ability. Sometimes it feels like it's a little bit of a tunnel vision, but the flashes are there. We know what he can be as a defender as he continues to grow into his frame and grow into his body. The athleticism is going to be really impressive. The whole first part of that was about the Warriors. Really quickly on the Nuggets side of things, Michael Porter Jr. getting his feet set might be the best, set shooter or just in general, guy that knows how, when he gets the ball, either off the ball or off the catch in some form or fashion, one of the best guys in the league at just getting the feet turned in the right way and making a shot. There's many times this game where it was there. The Nuggets ball movement continues to be impressive. Not just Jokic, right? It's contagious. It's a guy that has created this almost like culture-like feel, and Malone's obviously backing that up when he builds a roster in the front office as well, builds a roster around Jokic that guys that obviously can receive those passes like Aaron Gordon, who, basically rejuvenated his career after he left Orlando. Playing with a guy like Jokic, that's pretty normal. But, just the ability to see these guys get into open space, create, and pass with unselfishness, the whole team is incredible in that manner, even down to Reggie Jackson and others off the bench. Speaking of the bench, the Bruce Brown minutes that everyone was worried about, I'm not ready to comment. But what I will say is the Nuggets are the 7th worst bench points per game in the league. Bruce Brown, obviously, throughout most of the playoffs was, I can't remember exactly if he was a full-time starter, but he was in and out enough that he basically played starter-level quality production. And obviously we saw what we got from Christian Brown, who has partly been impressive in replacing him as well. Look, I'm not saying the answer is perfect here in what they've done, right? They're giving Peyton Watson opportunities, right? They're giving Christian Brown opportunities, who in this game didn't have an incredible stat line, but he's been a very good player for them this year. I'll pull up his stats to make sure I'm not talking from the hip here. He's averaging 8.5, 3.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists. So obviously he's out there. He's a productive player that Jokic trusts. Again, they gave Peyton Watson 20 minutes in this game. I know he's more athletic, provides a lot more on the defensive end than Christian Brown does. Julian Strawther didn't play enough there, or didn't play a lot there. But they have some guys that they fully rely on. They have a team that, again, isn't super deep, but when everything's clicking, and this is a fully healthy team in this game, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, Jokic, KCP, Jamal Murray, right? You have the 5 guys that you're going to play in a playoff series. We know what those guys can do. They won the championship last year, for crying out loud. So, again, I'm not ready to jump onto the bandwagon of the people that think that Bruce Brown's minutes are going to be the reason they don't win the championship. I think they'll figure it out. I think they're in play for a buy-in guy. Trade deadlines, obviously, nothing's ever out with the trade deadline. The last thing I'll leave with the Nuggets is Jamal Murray better be an all-star this year. They're 8-6 without him, which, you can say it's a winning record, but yeah, missing 14 games or so, 15, 16 games or so. It's not, enough to think, oh, okay, well, they're fine without him, right? Because they have Jokic or whatever. And there's a lot of those games, like they won a lot of games where I think they beat the Magic with, I think it was the Magic, I hope it was. They beat the Magic when Murray, Gordon, Porter, and Jokic were all out for load management reasons. But they're 14-4 with him. So there's clearly a differentiator there. He's shown incredible passing ability once again this year and his scoring ability in any two-man situation on this team. Look, he's their second best player and deserves every bit of credit. 32 minutes, 55% from the field on 18 shots, 60% from 3, and he finished the game with 28 points. 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. So he's doing a lot. He's a productive player for them, provides exceptional energy, and obviously is somebody that, regardless of what Jokic means as a leader for this team, as we understand, Murray's somebody that everybody around that team relies on. Celtics-Lakers, keep it rolling here. Boston averages the fewest bench points per game. I thought that was an interesting stat. Watching this game, it didn't necessarily feel like that hurt them, but there was stretches where they got up, like, again, with the starters, they got on a 12-0 run in, like, less than 4 minutes. It was like 3 minutes and some change. The Lakers ended up, just having a slow offensive start, and honestly felt like that was what kept them out of it for a lot of this game consistently. It took a really big Anthony Davis performance just to even keep this game close at one point, or get this game back into close range. The Celtics got up to something like 15 or more in the first half. The Lakers were able to pull that down back into under 10 points by the half. So a lot of back and forth in this one. Anytime the Celtics and Lakers play, and if I remember correctly, this was the 100th meeting. I didn't write that down, but I heard that yesterday, and I think that's correct. That's obviously you're gonna get an intense battle anytime the Celtics and Lakers play, even back when both of them were having some rough stretches there in the mid-2010s, going through some retooling and rebuilding. But Porzingis has been an awesome offensive weapon. That was a lot of really, really big words trying to be strung together there. They obviously can't create a ton of matchups in the front court that they really like, especially against Anthony Davis and Rui Hachimura and others. But their backcourt and I say backcourt as in I'm including guys that can dribble the ball, that can bring up the ball, that aren't necessarily point guards, but Derek White, Drew Holiday, Brown, Tatum. I'm just thinking about all these guys off the top of my head. Just those 4 guys alone, right, without even going into any other guys like Peyton Pritchard. You have so many guys that you can rely on with the ball in their hands that, teams have to really take their depth seriously. Whether the bench points speak for that, they have guys that they can rely on as ball handlers, which I think is really important in a playoff setting when Boston being one of the best teams in the East, if not the best team in the East right now, it seems, they have the ability to stress so much offensively and force other teams to switch too much, right? Or to put them in positions where they can't play drop, right? There's a ton of opportunity for, even if the Celtics don't have a dominant big man, from an inside scoring standpoint, Porzingis can be that in spots. But when you have a guy like Jason Tatum, you have a guy like Drew Holiday, Derek White, guys that are going to get the ball in places that it needs to be and can score and can keep defenses honest, it's going to be really hard for this Boston Celtics team not to make the finals and have a really strong chance at winning the championship. And I know that, again, a little bit early there, 39-year-old Al Horford, there's still a lot of things in play there. Again, they're going to be one of the biggest candidates for some kind of buyout candidate. I don't know who that is right now. But look, they've got some incredible pieces this year, and I like the way this team is constructed. I like that they changed it up, getting rid of Smart and some others there after what felt like a run of just continued, getting up to the goal line and short there, obviously making the finals, losing to the Warriors. But many Eastern Conference Finals trips, I wouldn't call the Double J's or whatever their nickname is now, I wouldn't call them, a failure because they've made so much successful winning basketball happen in Boston in the last 5 to 7 years that, look, these guys are going to figure it out eventually, and I think Drew Holiday is going to be a really big reason for that, specifically what he brought in defensively. A little bit quick stuff on the Lakers side of things. They shown an ability to crawl their way back. I mentioned that at the top there. Rui's minutes have been really impactful lately, specifically offensively. Creates a lot of mismatches and the athleticism to be able to attack the rim. It forces defenders to change the way they have to defend the paint. The Lakers need Anthony Davis to be dominant if they want to win a championship. It's just got to look like that. And the fact that they lost this game, even getting this ridiculous performance out of Anthony Davis, obviously being able to exploit Horford and Porzingis, he's going to have to do that 5 out of 7 times if they want to beat Denver in a series. He's going to have to do that same amount of times if they want to beat, right now, Minnesota is obviously going to be a team that I'm, kind of sad that we didn't see play today. They've been a really big surprise. I definitely want to talk more about them here in the next couple of weeks as I continue to watch them more and continue to formulate some things that I think about it. Maybe have a guest on that knows them a lot better than I do. Boston had no answer for Davis in this one, so that was obviously a big difference maker going back to the point about Davis. Sixers Heat, I'll be really quick. I was wrong about Jaime Jaquez. I had him ranked 44th. I just told you that earlier at the top. 31 points, 10 rebounds, an assist, 2 steals, 11 of 15 from the field, 8 of 8 from the free throw line. He's given an otherwise pretty inconsistent team without Butler a super solid scorer and defender. That's something that obviously Butler brings on both ends of the floor. When those guys are playing, you basically have what feels like a mini Jimmy Butler, a bulldog type of player that you can throw out there in many different situations. And obviously, it's not the same caliber of player I get, right? And this game obviously was knocked down a few notches not having Joel Embiid there. So it gave someone like Jaquez, who's not a big, an opportunity to shine, right? Tobias Harris had a pretty strong offensive showing. I really like what I've seen from Tyrese Maxey. He played 43 minutes in this one, only had 12 points, 5 rebounds, I believe. Yeah, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. Look, this was not the game to evaluate the Sixers, so I'm not going to comment much there. Again, no Joel Embiid. I'd love to have seen a performance there against the Heat against Bam Adebayo. That's just a matchup you want to see, right? Bam's a really strong defender. Is always in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation when he's healthy. This Heat team, even with not having Butler, like I said, the health here, this was definitely the worst game out of the 5 from a who was playing standpoint. No Josh Richardson, no Haywood Highsmith for the Heat. But Jaime Jaquez was the star of the show, and he deserved every bit of the praise. This team was making shots consistently. Obviously, when you're only getting 8 minutes out of Caleb Martin, a lot of your other guys like Duncan Robinson, Kyle Lowry are going to have to step up and make shots. Even Kevin Love had a few shots there, specifically one from 3 that was really big and swung some of the momentum of that game. But again, Jaime Jaquez deserves all the credit for this game. Somebody that Heat fans are definitely really getting behind, it seems like, and I'm willing to eat my crow on it. It is what it is, right? I completely understand where I was wrong on him. I knew that some of the offensive creation stuff was going to be, there. I thought it would take a little bit more time to get there, right? Fully on an NBA level. I knew the footwork was really good. That was the thing that made him so valuable, was just, he had an NBA level awareness about him. I didn't see this, though. I'll be honest. I didn't see this. And look, the Heat, they know what they're doing when you draft a guy that high, where I had him ranked, a lot of people did have him ranked in the 30s and 40s. Like I'm not necessarily on an island in that regard, but there were a lot of people also that had him in the, what I would call the late lottery, which is like 18 to 25, even though you're not in the lottery anymore, but the, mid to end of the first round, and deservingly so for every bit of praise he's gotten, because, he's been an awesome player this year, and glad I got to see it, what I would call on an elevated stage, even despite not having their best player on the Sixers. All right, lastly, wrapping up the night game here. Look, I don't care if you don't like heliocentric basketball, because look, I've made it known on this podcast many times, I'm not a huge fan of heliocentric basketball either. But when you have a guy like Luka that just is, when he is on, there is no better player to watch in the NBA. And I look, as much as I love Davis, as much as I love Booker, Kawhi, Tatum, the list goes on. Look, when Luka Doncic is hitting shots, when Luka Doncic is getting his teammates involved in a manner where he has 50 points and 15 assists, so if you just account for what he did in the department of scoring and passing the ball, doesn't include anything else like generating steals and blocks and other things like that, he accounted for 65 points in this game. Right, 65 opportunities, right? So 50 points, obviously, and then 15 assists that led to either a 2 or a 3, right? So he 70 plus at that point, if you want to count a couple of 3s on those assists, right? He had 10 career points in this game, which was awesome to see. Obviously, one of the fastest guys to do that in the last, I think, was it 40 years or something like that. Final stat line: 50 points, 6 rebounds, 15 assists, 4 steals, 3 blocks. Look, the Suns. No Bradley Beal, but they had Durant and Booker in this game, right? Like, and it really showed when you don't have a guy that can step up and be a primary defender on a Luka. And I know that, again, that's what makes those Clippers series with them, even if Luka has gotten the better end of the stick on those. It makes those series more fun because they have a Kawhi, a Paul George, a Reggie Jackson at the time, I believe. Some other guys there in Batum that you could throw at Luka and at least have almost a defensive army that you could play and be able to sustain that for the full game. The Suns don't have that, and that's a really, really big problem. And people were saying, like, well, it's going to be Nurkic's minutes that are so important. And look, Nurkic is not guarding Luka, right? He may defend the rim on a Luka drive, but Luka's smart enough to know where to go with the ball. And this is one of those examples. 15 assists shows you that, right? Like, it seems like every single time I watched a play that Luka was the involving party in, whether it was a point or an assist, obviously there was more points to show than assists, but felt like every time it felt like, okay, they're going to double here, or they're going to switch over on him to whatever the defender was on the pick. He was going to find the guy. Like, it just is what it is. 15 from 25 from the field, 8 of 16 from 3, 12 of 12 from the free throw line. Of course, when you have a stat line like that, you're going to have 50 points or get pretty damn near close. But he had multiple opportunities with more assists. Like, he could have had 20 assists. There was multiple shots that I saw in this game where there was a guy that made the extra pass, which was the right thing to do, right? Like Grant Williams would, get it on the wing and make one more pass to Jaden Hardy in the corner or something like that, right? And they're doing all of this, by the way, not just Luka, right? This was obviously a team effort to get this win. Lively's minutes were very, very good against what is a pretty lackluster front court, but against at least Phoenix, right? But they did all this without Kyrie, right? Imagine having another guy, and maybe that takes away some of Luka's scoring, right? Maybe that doesn't make him as dynamic in a game where this was pretty close throughout, right? This wasn't exactly a game where this was the Mavericks just running the score up constantly, right? This was ended up being a 128-114 contest, right? But think about, you put in a position where you have a guy like Kyrie who obviously can make the three-point shot at a pretty efficient clip. We know that. He's going to be a good scorer in his own right, so that could have opened up even more shots for Luka. But what made this game so unique and so easy for Luka was that he was the focal point and he was hitting enough shots that it didn't matter what kind of defense they threw at him, right? But obviously having Kyrie, as much as I've said, what I've said about him over my time talking about basketball, Kyrie Irving's a player, if he's on the court and he's playing, that's somebody you want on the floor. It just is what it is. The matchup creation that's there, the passing ability, the ability to take anyone off the dribble at any time and create an open shot is one of the best guys in NBA history. Not saying that Dante Exum is replacing that, but Dante Exum has really given them somebody who works really hard on defense, creates deflections, gets them out in transition. He's a big part of why the Mavericks' offensive pace, and it was brought up many times on the broadcast the other night, or last night, I guess, as I'm recording this. By the time you're hearing this on Wednesday or later, it was the other night. But he's a big reason why their transition and faster pace, they're playing more in transition, and there's a faster pace for the Mavericks, which I think has really opened up a lot of things, right? Like, even if Luka's not the guy coming up with the ball, Dante had multiple plays last night where he had a deflection that led to some kind of opportunity, right? Grant Williams is somebody that knows how to pass it out in transition. They've got Derek Jones Jr. on the wing, who's an incredible athletic player, right? Who's been showing the tendency, at least in this game, he was hitting the three. So, they're creating shots. Even if they get out in transition and they don't see a mismatch they can exploit, they're able to settle it down back in the half court, and they know that they have one of the 5 best, maybe 3 best, depending on who you ask, players in the NBA on offense that you're going to be able to rely on. 50 points, 15 assists. I've already said it, right? So if the fast break doesn't work, they're being a lot smarter about where the ball gets put in play based on what the opportunity is on the other side of the floor when they get a stop on defense, right? They know, okay, we have the athleticism on the floor right now. If Derek Jones Jr. is there, if Kyrie's there, we know we have the speed and the athleticism to get out in transition and put the ball up. Derek Lively is an awesome above the rim type of player on lob threats. So you have somebody you can throw long outlets passes to, from the half court and things like that. So they've done a really, really great job, right? Without rambling too long, solo pod here going 30-plus minutes. But I enjoyed everything I saw on Christmas Day. I really, really want to say that the NBA Christmas has just been awesome the last few years. I'm glad that they've been continuing to get this right. Fault the NBA all you want for some of the decisions and some other things that they've done. But Silver has continued, or whoever makes the schedule, however the schedule works out, people are getting to see the best basketball on Christmas Day, regardless of what the NFL is trying to do and placing games on that day. Not saying that there shouldn't be both on, but look, the NBA has been Christmas's thing for a lot longer, and I'm really, really glad that we've gotten good basketball. All right, just wanted to say on the way out, thank you to everyone over the last year, like I said at the top, who's liked, comment, subscribed, left a 5-star review, a rating, let me know, anything I could do differently, engaging on Twitter, literally anything, all the support. I greatly appreciate it. Some really awesome things are coming in 2024. Got some incredible gifts this Christmas that I'm planning to use for the podcast that are going to hopefully make the production and just overall the workflow even better. So, which, by the way, and starting with these headphones, I don't know if y'all can see them. Shout out to my wife for these Audio Technica. Big fan of Audio Technica around this podcast here, but looking forward to creating as much great content as possible. Don't forget to help support me and everything I'm doing like you guys have already done. Use code 2pointers on SeatGeek, $20 off your first purchase. A lot of great sporting events. Don't forget, you'll get that $20 reward, whatever you want to call it, $20 discount off your first purchase, SeatGeek.com, or link in the top of the description. Well, again, thank you so much for the support over the last couple of years. Next time I talk to you, or you'll hear from me, it'll be, I believe, technically 2024 when that episode releases. I'll be recording it here in the next couple of days. But until next year, this has been the Two Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett, and we will see you soon.